Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where we look to empower and encourage real conversation amongst men everywhere by unpacking topics on self-help, philosophy, and business. G'day everybody, this is Michael hosting this week's Simple Mind podcast, and the title of my episode this week is Fuck Self-Help, Help Yourself. But before we delve into that and start sorting out our lives, I have a drink today, and it is a coffee. Not any other coffee, it's not a normal coffee. It is mushroom coffee with lion's mane and chaga. And this is something I've been sold on by listening to Tim Ferriss.
Lion's mane?
What? Lion's mane, which is a type of mushroom, I think.
Oh.
Not mine. What about chaga? What's chaga?
I have no idea. Something that gives you clarity, seemingly. So,
Chaga.
I'm going to pour this out and we're all going to have a bit of a taste. It is actually, I've been using it like a drug. I've been drinking it for the last week or so, and I don't know if it's the placebo effect, but it's got a good caffeine hit. It has coffee in it, obviously. But it does tend to brighten the eyes and kind of give you clarity. But as I said, it could be the placebo effect of me thinking that's what it's meant to do, and that's what it's doing. But I will pour it out to you guys now, and you can have a bit of a sip, Conrad. There you go.
Oh, pre-made.
Pre-made. Woke the kettle this morning.
It is a sachet.
Two sachets.
It's not the hardest setup.
It is like an instant. It is. It's like an instant coffee. If you guys
How much does it cost?
That's a big serve.
For
this one.
3 boxes of 10, so 30, it costs about $40. So it's cheaper than, so I'm swapping it out for my morning coffee. So instead of buying like a $4 coffee or whatever, so it's actually saving me money as well, which is good.
More importantly, $3 coffees. An instant coffee.
So guys, cheers.
I think Makona could probably save you a few more.
It has an earthy taste.
Funny
It
that.
has an earthy look.
Mushroomy taste.
Fungus. Tastes like the inside of your feet.
Perfect drink for us fun guys though. I was going to use
Conrad's
that.
white
Come
shirt
on.
is no longer white. That's superb.
It's a coffee.
Superb.
But it has a little earthy undertones. I know, Travis, I'm sorry, you're not a coffee.
Tastes like black coffee.
Get that wine scratch and sniff book out.
I can't really taste the
No, I
mushroom.
can't taste the mushroom out.
There's no mushroom.
Okay.
It's more depth.
It has. Sort of. There's something else in there, which I think is the mushroom. So
It's not Haido.
all right, guys. So with my topic, I did something a little bit different this time. I ended up actually writing a little blog article about trying to get my thoughts down onto paper. So if you can indulge me for 3 minutes, I'm going to read through it, which is going to give us a basis for the conversation that's to come. Okay, fuck self-help, help yourself. I came up with that title. That was quite good.
Good link paste, yeah.
Over the last few weeks, I've come to the realization that I have an addiction to self-help and self-development. The dopamine hit comes in many forms, such as books, podcasts, audiobooks, and videos. The power behind the addiction is the thought that if I'm not trying to improve myself through the consumption of self-development content, I'm not progressing. You know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry with a herd of followers, including me, gorging on the delights and stories of the ultra-successful and the rags-to-riches narratives. It's masturbation of the mind, fast food, too easy to consume and too easy to forget. You just become part of the herd. You get hooked on the feeling that you are actually learning and moving forward, but what is really happening? Self-help narratives usually base themselves on someone else's story, the hero's journey, the path through challenges, ending up as the victor or getting that elusive prize, which is success. But is this realistic? How many people have been on this journey to find that the end never comes? Even the word self-help reinforces that you're in need of help, that you're not at the place, the successful, happy place, whatever that is. And this is a quote from a personal development speaker called Julian Blank. If you're someone who's working on becoming confident, what are you actually constantly reinforcing? That you're not confident to begin with. If you're someone who's working on self-improvement, what are you constantly reinforcing? That you need to be improved. The other issue I have with the behemoth of self-help is the backlash you can sometimes get for not believing in someone's guide to success. Say a word against someone like Tony Robbins or against the law of attraction and it's like you've insulted God himself. The similarities to religion are actually quite astonishing. It's a dogmatic system that must be adhered to at all costs, and you're shunned if you don't accept its power. You get sucked in and you believe. An example of this, which I've delved into in the last couple of weeks, is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Positive thoughts through your brain's magnetism will attract anything you want in your life, is the mantra. Think about something hard enough and it will appear. But this is based on a mongrel cross between religion and science, where it preys on innocent believers, takes their money and then blames them if it doesn't work. Sound familiar? Referencing back to religion, obviously. It uses the power of confirmation bias. You only see the positive and block out everything else, and this is very dangerous. What I can say though is that delving into a religious-like self-help journey can change your life, but it comes with a warning. Don't go too deep. Don't get too reliant on self-help to make your dreams come true. Like alcohol or any other addictive drug, you can experiment, try a few things out, get a taste of it, but don't get addicted. Don't go from one high to another, because at some stage you will find yourself drained of life, wondering where it all went. Luckily, I didn't get that far, and I do still dabble, a little whiskey at night, a beer on a Friday, but controlled. I now rely on myself to make change, not someone else. What I've recently found empowering is my love of philosophy, opening up internal conversations and existential thoughts, trying to decipher consciousness, things that are harder to understand, not that saccharine self-help, easily digested feel-good drug. Try to break from the herd of self-help crowds and the sun is always shining mentality. Go within for a while and delve into true beauty, deeper thinking, and come to the realization that it was never outside of you, it was inside you all along. So I thought I'd try a different approach to the podcast and actually get my thoughts down as a little blog article. And now I suppose I want to open up to you guys, because I mean, we're all in the self-help sphere. We've all dabbled in it. Some of us are deep in it still. Maybe some of us aren't. So I want to get your thoughts on the journeys you've been on. Funnily enough, a lot of this podcast probably came from us meeting at a kind of business development, self-development type institution, the Entourage.
We're creating some right now.
So I'm just really interested to hear. This is a very personal thing for me. So it's a real. I'm not saying you've got to obviously believe what I say. Obviously not, but I just get, the impact theory stuff over the last couple of months, getting shared content just got me to a stage where it was like, no more. His leather pants and his white smile and the success stories all the time, it just got a little bit too much. So I thought I've not watched Gary Vee, funnily enough, for like a month, and it's liberating. It's so liberating to do. It really is. So just where are you guys on your journey just now with self-help? Matt?
Oh, straight to me. Where am I on my journey with self-help? I've consumed probably an awful lot of it over the times. It's I don't know if I agree with everything you've said in your article, but I do know where you're coming from. And
so what do you not agree on?
Your article sort of almost shunning it in a way, but it's just too broad a statement. Like, it's the same as anything.
This is a personal thing.
No, that's why I'm saying that's like I don't have any problem with what you've written. No, yeah. I understand where you're coming from, because at times I've found myself at a point of over-consuming and not taking action.
Yes,
and
definitely.
That's a problem. You need to be aware of that. And there's always going to be people that will do that. I mean, but there's an 80-20 in PD. You talk about The Secret. You talk about some of these. Probably things that are almost gateways in, like they're the first pieces of content that people might sort of come across, because the average person has probably heard of it, and they might share it. There's a couple of Netflix docos out there these days which are just giving more people access to these things. But it's like anything. I think you're refining what you're consuming, and you have to go and seek out, I guess, what's important. I mean, I wrote down, on this, I wrote down a couple of things I was thinking about, and sort of my tips or things that I've worked on myself is just be really aware of overwhelm, because you can seriously waste time in the same space. And if you're consuming the same content over and over again, then either you haven't learnt something yet
without taking action.
Action
if
is
you
the
haven't
key.
learned something yet,
Yeah.
or you
I
just
think that's you talk about why is it true? Why is it a true procrastination tool or technique?
It can be used as that.
But anything can be.
Of course, but this is again, it's a personal thing. I was using it as a procrastination tool of like, I must be learning stuff. I feel like I'm learning stuff because I'm listening to like Eat My Frog.
But if you have nothing to apply it to,
exactly, yeah.
If you don't apply what
that's
you're
the
learning,
journey I'm on. Yeah,
that's where you just consume. It's like a consumption.
Yeah, but we all do it.
Do we?
Yes.
One thing I learned, and something I changed, is I make sure that I'm not consuming much content in areas that aren't relevant right now. So if I'm in a phase where I'm heavily working on culture and my team, within my business, I'll try and only read books around that. And if really good books come to me that are sort of in a different sphere that I'm not focused on, it's kind of pointless me reading that right now. So I try and park them, bank them in different areas, and make sure that I stay within a bit of a rhythm of what I'm focused on, because otherwise you read another book, or we've been involved in other personal development conferences, and you go to a conference and you learn all this great stuff, and you're like, but I'm not ready to apply it right now. So you've got to be like focused on where you are taking action, I think, and make sure you're consuming stuff that makes sense.
Things like, is it Stephen Covey's like the 7 habits of successful people or whatever? Like, who's read that?
Yeah.
What are the 7 habits?
Couldn't tell.
Exactly. I mean,
hang on a second.
What does that?
Exactly, what does that mean? Exactly what?
Or what have you got from the book?
I've got what I want to take one fucking sentence out of it.
Hey, don't get aggressive.
But what is it? What does that mean if I don't know that? I don't know the 10 Commandments off by heart. I go to church every day for 40 years.
Yeah. But you don't even see where I'm coming from a little bit there.
You put me in a box.
No, I've not put you in a box at all.
You said, there you go. What is there? What are you trying to prove?
I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just sort of reinforcing that we read something, say the 7 habits of successful people.
And what?
And why did you read that? Like, what was?
Because it was a good book to read. I mean, I've been told it was one of the top 10 business books to read.
And did you obviously applied some stuff at the time when you were going through it?
Clearly.
Yeah. Okay.
I think but
you understand. I wasn't trying to put you in a box, Conrad.
Well, when you use the word we, you're putting me in a box. Because I'm not part of a we. I'm a part of a me.
Yep.
I think there are 100% elements of self-help addiction. Like, we've been to a lot of conferences or like the Tony Robbins things. Like, people go every year, and like even on the Netflix thing, people have like come back every year. And
has one person from that conference done something? Do you think?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. But I think there are a percentage of people, and I guess there's an element of there's 2 sides to it, where there's a percentage of people who go to these things for the dopamine hit, and they keep searching.
Yeah.
It's like, again, which is just the action piece. Like, they keep going to Robbins every year, and it's like, I'll learn so much, and I come back and they're buzzing for a few days, but there are a percentage that do. And like, I guess, like, consuming content for me, there are definitely elements of procrastination, and then I go through like a YouTube, the recommended thing on the right, and it's like, click, that one's good, and then that's good. But I think you can't discount sometimes that, like, so for example, we did a lot of prep work to take this to another level, and you can write notes and all that, but sometimes, like, it could be in 3 months' time and someone says something and, you recall that, oh, that's right. Or like that proximity piece as well. Like, content to me, like, we've talked about this recently, well, for me, is like proximity. Like, watching Gary Vee can be a form of mentorship and proximity.
Definitely.
Of seeing how someone's operating at another level. I guess it's just what you're which you kind of, you've referenced here, what are you internally searching for? Yeah. And I do think there are elements of, like, you watch these things and like these vlogs to try and feel, and they can also do you a disservice depending on where your mindset is at, because then you compare and you're like, why aren't I there, and blah blah blah. And there are definitely negative there can be negative things of the self-help, consuming content, but I think the positive outweighs the negative in the long run. I think it comes back to who you are as an individual and
definitely
taking.
But I think you are consuming self-help stuff. You are philosophy is the essence of self-help.
Well, it's the original, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So you are consuming it.
But I'm talking about the real saccharine sort of stuff, the stuff that sort of is too easily consumed and repetitive sort of stuff.
But what is religion? And was it really bad? I mean, I made a comment here on it. You know, maybe the rise of self-help is probably, and I've actually got the numbers. Funnily enough, it's an 80-20 number. With the rise of the population and the money being spent on self-help, it's actually an 80-20%. If you guys looked at the percentage I put in my notes, all right, there's a direct correlation. The demise of religion to the rise of the population to the rise of self-help.
People need stories.
People need something.
I know, definitely. And then self-help seems to have sort of maybe filled a void.
It's filled a void that religion has dropped.
Yep.
Because of society.
Is it such a bad thing to be addicted to?
Yeah.
To be addicted to,
not addicted to, but to
consume.
I mean, would you have been watching porn instead?
Yeah, exactly.
In between episodes.
That's self-help. That unplugs a few bells.
I don't know if maybe I've gone to a point where you're thinking I don't like self-development or self-help. That's not the case. I'm still delving into that, but I've come to a realization that some of the stuff I was listening to, like getting an audiobook every month that was like Eat My Frog, like the Eat My Frog or whatever it's called, that's like the whole book is about that. Just do the first big thing that you need to do. You don't need a whole book to try to
100%.
Yeah. Right, well, personally,
you don't need to read the Bible either to follow the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You need to know that.
Well, personally, I like to call it self-growth, not self-help, because growth is more of a positive word and help's more of a negative word. Yeah. Personally, so that's the way I like to word it.
Self-serve, exactly. They do that at the service stations, you know that.
But it's this is true. But I know that something that's helped me in the last 12 months to 18 months is not consuming so much.
Yes.
Because I'm really choosy. I know that I don't consume as much as nearly anyone in this room, and especially at breakfast and in our social circles. I know that I probably consume the least, but what I try to do...
I'll challenge that one. I think I know someone else that confuses less than me.
But anyway, what I try to do is I try to listen or consume a great piece of content, take what I really want out of it, and then action that item until it's a habit.
Do you really do that? Like, what are you working on right now?
Language.
Okay.
Self-empowering talk, talking in a positive way. Language is my big thing for this last sort of 6 weeks, and it's going to carry on for the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm not saying like I'm ever going to be happy with that, but I want it to embed into a habit. You know, like focus was a big thing that I embedded into my habit, and I really focused on that because I found that I consumed so much content, and I became so scattered with like what you were saying, Matt. Like you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be doing this, and it's like, well, how about I just draw it back, I just consume a little bit less, I actually action what I'm doing, and I create it into my psyche, and I make it a habit, and then I move on to the next piece, and then it's embedded into who I am.
But you've got mentors too now, Travis. Right? You've got so you're training in the gym, right? You've got a PT for the first time I've seen you use one. All right, so that's also a form of self-help, right? You've seen a gap, you've gone and got the help, and you're using the person to help you. That's self-help. You diagnose that yourself.
Exactly.
Yep. Self-growth.
The other thing is you kind of need to consume a level of content to get your bullshit filter worked out. I mean, you need to learn these things, and
some of these things. Let's be really specific.
Okay, I
self-talk.
I'm in a perpetual growth state in life. I don't spend 25 hours a week consuming content at this point, but at times I have.
Yep.
At times when I was starting the journey and I was coming out of sickness, physical, poor physical condition, all I had was to read 15 and 20 hours a week. I didn't have people to talk to. I didn't have the community. All I had was text or other things that I could use to start to change my life. As that's modified, it goes with it. But if you want to learn new things, you can't just go and pick up the one book unless you just happen upon the right person who's given you the exact piece of information. Yeah. There's a lot out there, and I'll often get told, hey, here's a great book. I'll open it up, have a look. Okay, I've read all this before. I'll skim that. 12 minutes, bang, done, gone. I don't need to read it word for word. I know that everything that's in there, and I'll move on from it. But more to Trav's point, is I'm much more focused in my approach. And there's a couple of forms of listening, of consuming. I'll listen to just stories, and sometimes I just enjoy listening to certain people, and that might just be a car trip home. But if I'm consuming content like more heavily, it's for a purpose. It's for this podcast. It's for my own podcast. It's because I'm researching something now. But if someone says, here's a great book, check it out, I'll do that. And I've certainly moved on from a lot of what the books you're probably talking about, which the masses might get to first.
And I'm talking about the masses.
Content.
I am talking about masses.
You're saying that this is how you feel about it. But don't worry about it.
I was realising where I was getting to with it, I suppose.
But is that... coming back to some of the other questions I guess you've started to pose to us, is that related to you're frustrated with the content you're consuming, or are you frustrated with your action because of it?
What we were talking about before, the overwhelm of the amount of content, which then kind of renders you with too many things that you need to implement. Because habits take 60 days, 3 months to implement. So that's where I was getting to. I'm reading all this stuff, and over the last couple of years, I've delved more into the philosophy side of things, and I'm finding that more a feeling of more growth from me, because I'm questioning things that I don't understand. So I'm having to think deeper about them rather than just being told these are the 7 steps, or these are the 5 steps, or however many steps that you've got. Even Jordan Peterson, the 12 steps, the 12 rules for life, that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of...
You know what they are?
No, I don't.
But we long for those things, right? We look to be put in a box. I listened to a podcast recently, Seth Godin, who's pretty incredible, and his podcast Akimbo.
Top of the chain in his area.
Yeah, top of the chain. He was talking about this categorization, and we need that as humans, because we end up getting caught in overwhelm and overthinking things. We like to start by going, no, you fit in this box or that box, and we do need these rationales, because without that we get lost and we get too deep in that thought, and we try and understand everything at the same time. He was talking about simple things like, hey, you get a new tape dispenser, and where does that go in the house? I go to put it in the kitchen, doesn't fit in the knife drawer, doesn't fit over there. What do I do? Where do I put this tape? Yeah, but there's no pattern. Whereas we already know in most of the Western world, we know where we should look in the kitchen to find certain things. If you go to Europe, there might be a few different places that you might find certain things, but we have these standard structures across the board, and we need them, because otherwise we get lost in overwhelm and we're not focused on important actions.
One of the things you said here, Michael, is why are we scared to look within and rely on looking to others for help? Again, I'll come back to the fact that, even looking the fact that you stated that you're listening to philosophy and reading philosophy, which is still looking at others.
Yeah.
All right.
But it creates more of an internal dialogue with myself through that. But
everything can.
Yeah,
so my response to that was scared or unaware how to. Okay, because again, it's an awareness. When my dad passed away and I went back to church, the next 12 months to 2 years of my life, I will put my hand on my heart and tell you that I believe that every gospel they read every Sunday was speaking to me specifically about what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Yet I've been going to church for 37 years to that point in time. All right. So was I scared of receiving information, or was I unaware how to receive the information? Okay, we talk about in this thing. You talk about $9.9 billion and a 5.6 growth rate in consumption of the content. So I play with numbers. Global population growth is circa 1.07 versus industry growth rate of 5.6. That's an 80-20 rule. So things exist. It's how you want to peel them back to dissect your own bullshit, to serve your own story. And then the question is your story serving you, and what is it you're wanting to try and achieve?
You're also crossing the paradigm in a sense. You're currently creating content.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're actually moving from consuming content through into, well, you know what, I've consumed a lot and I feel like I've got at least something more to offer, or a perspective, even as you're saying, this perspective right now is a perspective that,
as I said, I'm not The whole point is that I'm not anti self-help or self-development or sharing content that I think is going to help somebody. I'm just saying there was a move, and I felt it in myself.
But you're sort of, in a way, I know you're not anti, but in a way you're rejecting the very thing that helped you get here.
In this room right now.
Well, in this room right now, where you're at right now in life, I mean, roll back 20 years.
Who knows?
Where you were.
You can't actually say that, because who knows, like, what would have happened.
Well, it was either way, it was your path.
Exactly, yeah.
You chose to go to the entourage.
Yeah, it did, definitely,
right?
yeah.
So you chose to put yourself... So the seeking for help...
And I'm not regretting any of that.
No, but the seeking for help put you in a situation in proximity amongst people in this room, which then brought you to this moment.
I'm very grateful for that.
So, but you took action. You saw an advert, you registered,
that was something you told me about.
Yeah, but you took action. You didn't procrastinate. And I think that's the point here, is if you're going to consume content, hold yourself accountable to taking action.
And that is kind of the whole point of what I'm talking about, because it means nothing if you don't do whatever it is you're consuming. Yeah. It means nothing, really.
One thing I picked up from your piece is the help yourself aspect, that feeling of responsibility, that we know the difference between people like a lot of us in the room here who either now or in the past have taken on some of this self-growth content, taken action and grown, whereas we also know people who have gone to events, read books, done all these things, placing their accountability in that piece of content, in that event, and going, I'll be better when I do that event. I'll be better when I go to the 3rd Tony Robbins event. I'll be better when I've read that 4th book. Not going, I'll be better now because I'm going to take action and grow me as a person. And that's where I guess for me personally, recently, I've been on a similar journey where I'm not deliberately trying to cut back on content, but I am trying to go, I don't need that extra book. I don't need a mentor or a coach necessarily. I need to be accountable within myself. I need to take action on all the stuff I have learnt. And therefore I need to take personal responsibility for my growth.
Take stock of where you
are.
And
not place that accountability externally.
Very Jocko, mate.
Yeah, the books,
I don't have time to consume the amount of content that I want to at the moment.
But I mean, I think most of us are in different percentages of still on that journey of looking for that answer. I mean, some of us went from the entourage to a different self-help thing, and some have actually gone on to another thing.
What's the question, Michael? We say looking for an answer, but what's the question?
Question to what?
What do you mean
looking for an answer?
Yeah, looking for an answer. Because to me, I'll be continuing to digest this stuff until the day I die.
But what? But you said we're all looking for an answer. The way you
said it was like...
But what's the question?
What do you mean?
You just said that we're all looking for an answer. So I'm just curious as to what you think the answer, the question that we're trying to answer.
Maybe that's what we're searching for.
I'm not searching for anything.
Because there's a personal piece that I wrote on it. I'm not.
But you just said we're all looking for an answer.
No, because I look at, I guess, self-development or something I've been sitting with lately. So one piece we took from impact theory as an example recently. I took action out of that, and I was the John Assaraf interview, and he talked about having, which I know we've talked about before. I think Trav, you do this, having stuff on your mirror and doing the brush and prime, and kind of, I guess, that empowering the language thing was the big one out of that.
That's
the same thing.
What started me on my draft.
And so I went and kind of did a bit of a one page that I've stuck up on the mirror, but on there I put a few things that I've fed from other people over the last kind of few months of content that I've consumed, and one of them was from Ryan Sahart, where one of his kind of mantras or key themes is that he gives everything to the day because he fears not giving the world his potential. And so, to me, consuming the content is that kind of continuous journey piece of whether self-improvement, self-help. of trying to untap your potential. And there are multiple sources, whether that's through a mentorship, through this, through a book, through a video. And the fact that we live in an age now where you can get easy access to all this and everyone has something to say. You don't have to listen to everything, but there is so much value to pull out. It can be one, like when we went to the Entourage, and even like we did a conference recently, like it's one word or one sentence that I've found in conversation sometimes that can change, like it can be like, oh, that's right. And all the stuff that you've been consuming kind of connects.
And that could be like 2 years down the track.
Yeah, so you kind of can't.
It's like the game of Tetris.
Yes, it's not like. I don't know. For me, I'm not like. There are probably elements when you're searching for something, but it's not like I don't look to this self-help as like looking to answer a particular question.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at it for?
Right? Like you have to give yourself the answer.
What are you reading it for then exactly?
Or to grow, to learn.
Which is a form of learning. Which is learning. You have to answer questions. You have to question things and sort of work out if it's right for you.
As you grow up, right, and this is the truth.
I guess it's to be the best version of who you can be.
Yeah,
and I don't.
But not by somebody else's standards. This is where I'm saying going with
somebody else's standards.
But everyone's walked the path. Like nothing's new.
No.
Your mum and dad, even the content we're creating, right? So when you get born as a baby, you're following your mum and dad's standards. Then you're following your teacher's standards. Then you're following your coach's standards. Then you're following your boss's standards. No, so at some stage, you're going to have to challenge those if you want to live a life that's truly about you.
Definitely, yeah. Yep.
And I actually would prefer the population to be addicted to self-help than other things in some aspects. The masses, like
100% agree.
You know, these are concepts and themes. Like if everyone started to, like my wife started going on a journey, and like the mindset shift. If we could all get to a growth mindset as a species, the whole world would be different. So
they talk about books being. I posted this yesterday about formal education versus self-education. Reading what you want to as opposed to what you're told to. Because what you want will work you towards where you want to get to, not where somebody else wants you to get to. I would love to, and I do. I used to listen to talkback radio for years of my life to understand the vox pop people of the population, and when I was meeting with them, so I know what was going on. That was bullshit. What do I do now? I consume a podcast every morning just about, or I read at least 30 minutes a day. And why do I do that? Because I'm led to believe that the excellent people in my industry are doing at least that. And I want to be at least that.
Because there are recipes and methods, like even a video I watched last night about there is rules, like you follow the steps are true for the most part. Like there is a recipe to building a business, going on a diet, building muscle or whatever. There's recipes.
There's recipes, then there's actions.
Yeah.
And you can try and cheat those, right? You can try and make a great restaurant's replicate a recipe, all right, by using cheaper ingredients. You can try and do that. It's not going to be the same.
But I think, but on the flip side, I do agree there is, I guess, a percentage of people who get addicted to self-help, and definitely seminars.
They're addicted to dopamine, right? And that's what it's giving them that buzz. They go there and they feel great about it. They come out, they take no fucking action, and I love them. Because you need them. That's your black and white. That's your contrast.
Well, it's the seminars that half the presentations are just sales pitches, and then today only, this is worth $7,000. Run to the back.
I love those fucking things because I know people are going to take no fucking action. I'll do something,
and I'll show you how to make a lot of money.
And I'll sell to those fuckers.
What about the other end of the spectrum? Someone like, I know Gary Vee, for example, self-professes that he doesn't read, he doesn't consume content. That's the ultimate sort of nature versus nurture. He's purely a self-made, self-grown individual as far as he portrays himself. He doesn't read, he doesn't consume, he doesn't do any of those stuff. Obviously he
has.
He observes and he does other things, but he said he doesn't read. So how does that compare or contrast to individuals that are always reading, like Buffett, for example, who's just constantly
Buffett's got 100 billion and V's got less than 200 million. So there's your numbers.
There's lots of different paths to your success.
Yeah.
So there's no one roadmap.
And he is consuming content, let's be honest. He's just not reading potentially.
Yeah.
He's learning from his environment and conversations.
Look, and I think that's kind of what you're trying to say, Mike. I mean, there are different paths to...
the thing that
you could use philosophy or you could use impact theory, but the underlying themes and concepts are the same.
Of course, and that's what I'm saying. I've gone back more to your original self-help stuff, the philosophy stuff, like Socrates.
Right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's just extrapolated for modern day.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is the industry now feeds on the herd, the people out there, which I don't think is a good thing.
But it did back then.
Not to that degree, because that was
there's a story that they talk about the first church, right, where Peter spoke to the masses. I don't know whether I shared this with you guys, all right? So Peter spoke to the masses, and there was non-believers, and there was liars, and there was but there was 3,000 believers that were at the first church, okay? And from those 3,000 believers, what came? A fucking industry.
Yeah.
All right, so
a real estate mogul.
There was always someone listening.
Yep.
All right, otherwise, no one would be reading, no one would be talking.
Yep. What I'm trying to do, so to wrap it up, as I said, this was a kind of personal journey, and what I wanted to put down was personal things. So whatever applies to you. That's absolutely fine, and I agree with you. Self-help, self-development is good. The title's it was like a shock value title, right? Of course.
Oh, he's gone for the lead magnet.
Clickbait. I will now tell you the 5 tips to lead a successful life. Drink mushroom coffee.
We have a subscription. No.
So it was a personal journey. So it's something, and it's funny you said Seth Godin before, because I've recently got the newest Seth Godin book. He says exactly. This is the thing that started me thinking about it, because I listened to the first chapter and was like, this is the shit he said before, exactly what he said before.
Nothing new's ever been invented.
So I was like, oh, fuck, Seth, you got me. So I was like, so that's what I was sort of thinking about, and got me sort of thinking, oh shit, why did I buy that book? What was I looking for with that book?
Mike, is there an element of, I guess, judgment in your my self-help's better than your self-help? My philosophy and Jordan Peterson's fine, but The Secret's stupid. And
The Secret is stupid because magnetism in your brain does not work. Tell that to a starving kid in Africa. Just imagine that plate of roast beef and it's gonna friggin' appear in front of you. It won't work. So that's what I'm saying. The hocus pocus sort of stuff.
I'd love to play with that topic a little bit more at some stage.
I
reckon you can imagine a burger. He's going to enjoy his life.
Just jump in one final point.
He dies.
Let's not touch on that one.
Can I just jump in one final point?
Such a big one.
And I'll bring back a personal story. I pushed away religion in a lot of ways for a long time, and I ended up having a long-term partner. I was getting ready to get married, and she was Catholic, and I dabbled a little bit because. I had dabbled because my
drank the wine.
My nana had converted to Catholicism when I was a child, and she took me to a little bit of Sunday school type stuff, and that was just going and playing with kids and doing a few things.
But
sorry, Matt.
Yep, you went with your.
It's if it wasn't for that, I may not have been more open-minded to it later, but then having children, I chose to get baptised and go down that path. But I'd always pushed the religion back for so long until I realised that it wasn't what everyone was telling me. I could make it what it meant to me.
Course, yeah.
And my challenge to you, Mike, is it just... what percentage of this, and it's not all of it, right? I understand it could be consuming too much time, etc. But to what extent have you sort of gone, you know what, that self-help stuff hasn't given me the answer. I'm now going deeper into the heritage and into the philosophy side and I'm still looking for that answer, versus at what point you can find a meaning from yourself, because I feel like I had to switch, and that's my journey, is that I flipped to go, you know what, I'm not looking for an answer from anyone, but I'm happy to listen and feel the tips and see what comes through.
That's kind of where I am. So I'm using philosophy in that sense. So just trying to find, because these are kind of unanswerable questions, like consciousness, the existential thought is something that we'll never know maybe until we die or whatever it is. So I enjoy that part of it and get stimulated by that and see things in life and look at nature now closer and look at the things that are right now around me and be grateful for, rather than that thing that I'm always trying to chase. I suppose where I put that.
Meet Chris Barkaway.
Cold context.
Yeah. No, you can learn about unconsciousness and subconscious right now.
I know, and I'm learning about that as well. Carl Jung and Freud and all that sort of stuff. The subconscious stuff really interests me, and it's something that people still don't understand. And this is interesting because it's again another topic we could probably talk about down the track. But in wrapping it up for today, thank you guys for challenging me and being here today. How was the coffee?
Thanks for being vulnerable. The coffee's shit house.
Shit house mushroom.
$3 a sachet, mate.
I don't drink coffee, so
I don't in a sachet.
It's not international roast. Come on.
I grew up drinking international roast. I still think Mum gives it to me.
There's the answer to the questions. You grew up drinking international roast. Okay, guys. Thank you for listening, and find us on iTunes. We're all over the place. Spotify, YouTube, Leaderville. We're everywhere.
Good topic, Mike.
Boys. And thanks for listening, guys. And it was an interesting topic. I think, again, as you said, it's something we can go deeper into. Maybe something more specific. The law of attraction, the magnetism. Oh. I want that Ferrari. I can feel it pulling up outside the door. Guys, thank you very much. See you again.
Shaban.